Happy New Year. WrstlXtra is back on your screens. This week we are talking about that Snoop splash in AEW, and we will get into some early Royal Rumble predictions. Stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, it is your boy A-Dazzle. We are here live on WrstlXtra, the first one of 2021. So happy New Year, even though we're like 12 days into the year. Doesn't matter anyway.
It doesn't matter.
So, it's all good. You are watching us live here on YouTube on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. And I'm sure you are and will be listening to us on AffinityExtra.com. Mex, it feels like I haven't seen you in like about 20 months, even though it's been like 10 days. So what's good? How's the year started? What's going on?
It's good. I think, it's one of those ones where we started it with a downer. With us here in England, everyone's in lockdown. No one can go anywhere. So, yeah, you got to be smart with your movements. Do a couple of things in a day that you would usually spread out over a week. But, it's a new year, new energies. Everyone's planning their moves for the year. So, yeah, man, we just got to get it.
Yeah, bro. Listen, man, you're talking about restricted movements and that. I'm having to sneak into the studio. You know what I mean? Make sure no police are... No, it's not that bad. But, having to navigate all of this national lockdown, number 3 for us, isn't it? In a year. Kids not in school. That's the hardest part. Mate. Yeah, let's not even start because I'll be here moaning about my kids for the next hour. So let's get into the Wrestle game. Bro, let us kick off with that Snoop splash. Can you even call it a splash? It was like he landed on his knees and then flopped onto Serpentico. Bro, what did you make of not even just that one incident, but just Snoop Dogg being on AEW, how he interacted with everyone, whether that be on screen, backstage, whatever? Like, how did you see the whole thing?
I mean, we spoke about this a couple of weeks back. It rubs me up the wrong way that Snoop Dogg was there. He's the WWE man. We've seen him there. He is a Hall of Famer in WWE. He made Sasha Banks' theme tune. God damn it. Like, come on. What is he doing there? But I understand at the end of the day, he's there to promote their TV show that they've got there on TNT, that talent show. The Go Big Show, I think it's called.
Correct. Even using WWE names. Come on.
Yeah. So I understand what it's for. It's just a little kind of gimmicky thing. And you know what? It puts AEW in mainstream eyes. That flop from the top rope has been used as a meme for the past week everywhere. So, Sasha Banks even posted it on her Twitter account or something. So
yeah.
It is what it is. So yeah,
for real. Shout out to Abdul Malik, who's the artist that kind of made all those little different memes and that as well, with Snoop Dogg in different iconic WWE moments. The best one had to be the one from the Hell in a Cell. Snoop looking like he's about to go straight into the table.
Undertaker
out of the way. So yeah, man, that was crazy. That was crazy. Like you said, Sasha Banks retweeted on both Twitter, Instagram, all the rest of it. In a way, questioning. Snoop needs a bit of help.
Technique, innit? When he was climbing up that top rope, I was thinking, God, Snoop Dogg must be what, like 60 plus? How old is he? I was thinking, this is really dodgy. This can go really badly. Thank God,
I rate him, because even getting to the top, for someone I know he's done a little, a few bumps and whatnot in the Rue before with Chavo Guerrero and a few others, but he's never gone to the top rope. Going to the top rope is a completely different thing. And I thought with his long, lanky self,
bro,
that
Uncle's legs were shaking, bro.
Trust me, all of that, bro. But, as we said, he did it. He did his thing. And he just, as much as it looked The move itself looked uncomfortable.
Mm.
He felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Which was quite obvious. So that I rate him for that, man. And like you said, you know, at the end of the day, he's there to promote what he's doing, make his money, all the rest of it. It's eyes on AEW for sure, with the Go Big Show, TNT, and all the rest of it. And to be fair, the other thing that I liked was his involvement with Private Party. Obviously, they have a move called Gin and Juice, which is from Snoop Dogg's song, and he was backstage and he bought the juice. You know what I mean? So to go with their gin, and then Matt Hardy came out and they did some. He's now their agent or something. They've signed a contract with Matt Hardy as their agent and all this stuff. Like that's a little budget, bro.
Matt Hardy needs to leave the youth them alone, bro. Matt Hardy out here taxing the youth them 30% of their contracts, bro. What's all that about? Come on, man.
Listen, that's all gonna go Pete Tong. I'm telling you for sure. That is all gonna go messy at some point, but I'm here for it, man. It's interesting to see Matt Hardy behind Private Party. For anyone that didn't know, back in the day when Private Party was still on the indies at House of Glory, a small promotion, well, not even that small, one of the more popular promotions in New York area. Private Party actually faced the Hardy Boys way back in the day. So, and that was just before the Hardys went back to WWE. So there was a lot of, eyes on the Hardys at the time. So Private Party had their little bit of fame just before, obviously we know them as AEW stars now. So to see Matt Hardy come back, find them again, and do what he's doing with them is amazing. So shout out to Matt Hardy for that. But in terms of character, Matt, and what's going on AEW, bro, if I was Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Kent, I'd be looking for someone to sign the next contract with, because this guy is about to do them over. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. It's playing into this whole new character he has, which is pretty cool. I mean, at the end of the day, they are just doing some camera work. They haven't had much in the way of in-ring action recently. Slyly, if we're trying to make comparisons, Top Flight have pinched their spot. But they're working in the back on this character stuff. They're on Being the Elite as well. On Being the Elite, Matt Hardy has asked for 50% of all the money that they're making on Cameo now as well. And all these third-party sources. So, they're telling their little story there. I'm sure it's going to blow up very soon. So we'll see. But some good stuff going on.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Private Party. Moving ourselves back over to Vince's house. WWE.
One question before we move.
Go on.
So obviously, we were introduced late autumn times to Jade Cargill. She was in the program with Brandy Rhodes, and now we know Mrs. Rhodes is expecting.
Of course.
That is not going to happen.
There's a bump in the road.
There is a bump in the road. Do you care to speculate, what is going to happen from here?
It's weird. So obviously we talked about this before, innit? And I don't understand why it hasn't carried on, because there's no real reason why you can't. So not necessarily with Brandy herself, but at least with everyone else that got involved, or the other 15 women that got involved. What I mean? Obviously we still got Red Velvet. There was Big Swole. Serena D was there, and then of course Diamante and Ivelisse, and
Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero.
There's no real reason why that hasn't carried on. Red Velvet could easily kind of be on a grudge thing because she injured Brandy. And as much as we know for a fact that Brandy's off TV because of the pregnancy, it still could have been carried on as you did this to her arm, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not completely sure. But this whole just this up and down booking on AEW in general, especially again, as always, with the women's division. And I don't completely understand this time why it's not carrying on. I don't get it. So
even the usage of Cody and Shaq within that story just kind of gone to nothing.
Yeah. And again, I don't understand why that would have to stop with Brandy not in the picture. So as much as they may have had an idea and had a plan with Brandy involved, I mean, they could be working on it, behind the scenes and all the rest of it. We don't know yet. But at the same time, it's still kind of been 3 weeks since.
Yeah, plus, I mean, to be fair, they had this 2-week New Year Smash thing that they had planned already. They had they didn't have to, but they put on a brilliant tribute show for Brody Lee in between that as well. So maybe it messed with the programming a bit, but
very true.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that maybe in the next week, at least by next week, if not on Wednesday, at least by next week, we see something more come of it, or have an idea of what's going to happen with all of that, or something. Because it's very interesting, actually. Not earlier today, our friend Sir Wilkins at the Jobbeteers podcast, on his regular coffee talk, mentioned that Cody Rhodes himself on, I think it was Chris Jericho's podcast, was quite, candid about the fact that some things haven't been great because the communication between producers and wrestlers and managers hasn't quite been correct. And I think he said, I don't know if he said these words specifically, but said that there was just too much freedom for...
Took the words out of my mouth.
Freedom for the wrestlers, for the talent and stuff. Like, mate, been saying it for how long? Said it from day one. This whole freedom and blah, blah, blah was never really gonna work. It was never gonna work. I don't care how experienced, how great the talent is. Too much freedom is not great. And we've seen it. And as much as we've compared AEW to the WCW of the past, because that came out as like, this new place to go where no one else thought there was possibly anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And I'm glad someone within the company, so high up in the company, has admitted to that fault. And at the same time, you're going to make mistakes. So it's not like, oh, you've made a mistake, blah, blah, blah. But, these things happen. Hopefully they will kind of start again, tighten what's going on, and we'll see.
Yeah, literally. And it's good that they've acknowledged it, and it looks like hopefully they'll do something about it. I think being the Elite, the YouTube show, can be somewhere where everyone's kind of given that kind of creative freedom to do what they want. If their story that they're telling on being the Elite gets over, makes it to TV by the fans carrying it, then cool, play off that. But at the end of the day, you're running a TV show. You've got to make money for your network as well. So there has to be some type of rigid structure to the story, which overall they've been good with. Especially the women's division is where they've kind of dropped the ball. So
right.
We hope they pick it up there in the next year.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I think it's probably a little bit more of, with the women's division, it's been neglected. With the men's and all the other stuff, it's kind of free reign. And that's why things are just not amalgamating and working together. But that is how it goes. And as you said, they've acknowledged it, so they obviously see that there's a problem. So I'm sure they'll fix it in the best way they can. So let's keep our eyes on AEW for the next few weeks or the next year. So let us go over to Vince's house. WWE, and God has COVID. How does God get COVID? I don't get it.
Shit, man.
But Drew McIntyre has been tested positive for COVID-19. Was it over the weekend? It's weird.
And he came out and said, I think on the promo on Raw last night, he said he's one of these people that are asymptomatic. So he didn't know he had it. He's not showing any symptoms. So that's why you just have to stay safe with what you're doing, because you can be fine. You go and take a test just to be sure, and then boom, you're out the game. So
yeah, of course. I think some people are blaming Goldberg.
You know what I said on Twitter the minute I saw it, that WWE tweeted it, I said on Twitter, isn't it funny that last year when Goldberg came back, Roman Reigns, where's the way out of here? Oh, is it that way? Okay, cool. Isn't it funny? And it's almost as if Drew has done the same thing.
Real talk, man. I think we're gonna have to start chanting COVID instead of Goldberg from now on, because
Goldberg.
Man, it's crazy. But that leads us on to also as well the usage of Keith Lee. Over the last few weeks, of course, we saw that on, I think it was the final episode of Raw for 2020, he defeated, was it Sheamus? Became the #1 contender, had the match, of course, at the Legends show. With a whole load of legends watching, which was actually quite interesting, to be honest. Eyes on Keith Lee, which was great, and that phenomenal Spanish fly off the top rope. I didn't think we would see anything like that from Keith Lee in WWE from now on, but we have. Obviously, he didn't win, but at the same time, it was an absolutely amazing showing by Keith Lee, and he's still in the picture. But of course, with Drew now going down with COVID, it's kind of like, there's going to be more stuff for Keith Lee to do, fill in. He had 2 matches yesterday to kind of, double up and stuff like that. So are we seeing, as we say almost every week, are we seeing still a push for Keith Lee? Will he kind of disappear for a little? Has Drew going down with COVID ignited another flame for Keith Lee? Like, what is going on?
I mean, it definitely should light another flame for Keith Lee. And you know what? I don't want to speculate too much, but Drew's train last year till the Rumble match, it was mad. It was literally win after win after win, counting down claymores in the middle of the ring and all of this kind of stuff. Now, Keith Lee hasn't followed like a similar path in terms of that kind of momentum, but he put on an amazing match last week. Literally, like, that show was so poor. And that saved it. It gave us something to watch at the end. And this particular week, I found it very interesting. Like we were saying, a couple superstars pulled double duty, especially because of maybe numbers around COVID and maybe people that have been in contact with Drew were taken off the show. Keith Lee was one of these people. He tagged with Sheamus to take on Miz and Morrison. Straight after that match, him and Sheamus started fighting for whatever reason. Nobody knows. Him and Sheamus then had a match. So, he's been out there for 2 segments now. What was interesting to me was that this was the same show that Triple H was on. Triple H obviously being one of the key figures that brought him to NXT.
Right.
Triple H being on the show, Raw will probably write their show 5 minutes before it goes live. So he's in the writing room. I won't doubt that Triple H thought, give him this mantle, give him 2 matches. He can do it. Triple H was then in a further segment backstage with Keith Lee. Keith Lee trying to talk Triple H out of, don't go and fight Randy Orton. I can do your bidding for you. I've already had 2 matches tonight. I'll go do a third for you. You've been watching my back. Let me go watch yours. Triple H, don't worry. I created this monster ultimately. Let me go deal with it.
Right.
Triple H wouldn't put himself in a segment with the Joker. If he didn't believe that this guy was the guy, you see what I mean? So it's these little indirect rubs, and like we're saying, this ain't as blatant as the train that Drew was on, but for me, it's keeping him warm. Like
right.
Same way they used to keep Strowman warm a couple years ago, around Reigns and Lesnar, and like if anyone goes down, this guy's warm enough or hot enough to just jump in, and So I still think there's good stuff in Keith Lee, and it looks like maybe I saw a couple of people last night were saying that he's starting to fight or wrestle a different style, but at the same time, we saw a Spanish Fly last week or the week before that. So maybe he's keeping his typical Keith Lee style for those big marquee matches, and he'll wrestle this safe WWE big man style every other night. Who knows? But like I say, I think they're definitely still got plans for him.
I mean, in terms of the style, I'm not mad at it, to be honest, because at the same time, it's like we said when we first heard about him, being sent to the Performance Center, and that had a negative reaction. But for us, it was like, well, they obviously want to use him. So him having the safer match each week is cool, and then using the big moves for the big matches makes a lot more sense, to be honest. Makes a lot more sense. It doesn't become repetitive,
doesn't become super kick.
Right. Or the Canadian Destroyer.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I'm all good with that style and how he's being used. He's always around the picture, as you said, just like Braun was back in the day, and when Roman Reigns disappeared, it was Braun that they threw in that title match with Goldberg. at Mania. So, you know, who knows? Not to say that we're expecting, you know, Drew's going to be back by Royal Rumble, I'm sure. So he's not going to jump in the title picture in that respect. But at the same time, you know, they're keeping him warm, they're keeping him ready, and he's there to do what he needs to do. And again, I'm not complaining. I'm not expecting him to be pushed. You know, he had his title match last week. You know what I mean? So there's nothing to complain about, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's Drew's season right now. I think everyone can see that. And, you know, he's even been brought in as someone that has wrestled great matches in the past with Drew. So they're acknowledging that. Just to go to some of the comments, big up everyone joining us live. Alex Harrison, he said Keith Lee and Sheamus will make an excellent tag team. There was an element of the bar about them, which was pretty good. I personally wouldn't want to see that. I want Keith Lee to shine on his own, but I get that. Arpit, they told Drew that he was gonna drop the belt to Goldberg, so he ran around licking doorknobs. Oi, Arpit, behave yourself. Right, get better soon, Drew. But yeah, I think a lot of people think that this is a tactic to try and avoid Goldberg, as we're calling him. Kristen Camacho, welcome, bro. He said, I really think Keith is going to win the Rumble.
That moves us on very nicely. Thank you, Christian Camacho, for that one. Because from Keith Lee to the Royal Rumble, which is on the 31st of January, always around my birthday, which is amazing. 27th of January, by the way. Just make sure you know that.
Get him gifts, guys.
Gifts and WWE stuff and whatever. But yeah, so Royal Rumble weekend is coming, and you know, our early predictions, who we think, you know, is gonna make a statement, who is going to win, who is going to be in the final four, all of these things. And we have seen that even in the news that the names like Big E, Keith Lee, Bobby Lashley, and even Bianca Belair for the women's have been put up there as favorites, as in the bookies' favorites, not just our own stuff, but the bookies' favorites to win. For yourself, who do you see winning? Who do you see making a statement but not necessarily winning? Final four, what is going on for the Royal Rumble for us?
I see Keith Lee final four in the men's.
Okay.
I don't see him winning. My pick, I actually made a video of Royal Rumble winners, and my shortlist, should I say, for men's was Sheamus, Keith Lee, and Goldberg. Now, this was before Goldberg was in the championship match. He might lose to Drew and still turn up in the Rumble. We've seen it happen before. So that is still a possibility. But I don't know. I think they might go with Sheamus to win the Royal Rumble to tell the story with him and Drew. I don't think Big E is going to win it, like we've spoke about before. And like I say, Keith Lee, I think final four, nice little spot for him. But I don't think he's going to win it. Another name that's come into my head in recent weeks is Brock Lesnar. Which I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind Lesnar versus Thing, you know. But I don't know. I think he's out taking a break for now anyway. For women, my pick is Bayley, 100%. I'm not moving from that. Yeah, I'm not moving from that. It's definitely Bayley. However, from what I understand in America, and maybe some of them are American watchers, listeners can tell us better. Bianca Belair is the bookie's favorite to win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, she is.
She's the bookmaker's favorite, and I think that is massive. Now, whether they go with that or not, who knows? I just think Bianca Belair versus Sasha is too soon for me. I can't wait for the day that's gonna happen, but I just think, you know what? I wouldn't even mind if it's Sasha versus Bianca at WrestleMania. Sasha retains, Bianca turns heel to when she's best, and maybe wins at SummerSlam. But yeah, that's my predictions. What about yourself?
So before I go add to my actual predictions, it was interesting. WWE on Instagram posted a graphic with 1, 2, 3, 4, and were like, you know, who do you think is going to be the final four in the men's Royal Rumble? As a joke, based on you know what I'm about to say, based on the madness that happened in the US with the Capitol building, I said Bobby Lashley, Big E, Keith Lee, and Ricochet. And then maybe, you know what, if that happens, someone will all those same Trump supporters will go and charge down the WWE headquarters.
Yeah.
But to be fair, when I think about those four, maybe apart from Ricochet, those three are very possible to end up in that final four.
So go again: Keith Lee, Bobby Lashley,
and Big E. Possible, probably not all three of them. Possibly not all three of them, and then a fourth person, but at least any two of those three at a time. I think Bobby Lashley is like a dark horse for me. If he was to win, I would be surprised, but then at the same time, you can easily make sense of it. Very, very easily make sense of it.
Lashley wins, I'm gonna be gassed.
Miss, bro, I was gassed when Drew McIntyre won it last year. If Bobby Lashley wins, that would just be crazy. That would be crazy. Another person that was the early favorite, I don't know if he still is now, was Big E. Mm-hmm. Big E was the first one to be named the bookie's favorite. I think that was about a month ago now. So there's chance, but with him holding the Intercontinental Championship, I don't think it's gonna happen. I just don't see it happening. He'll make a statement. He'll probably be the one to eliminate most people, possibly, or that will be Keith Lee. But with both of them, I don't see either of them winning.
Alex Harrison has been saying this for weeks. Big E is going to eliminate Kofi.
You know what?
Alex, if that happens, you have been saying that for weeks, my friend.
Trust me. I was actually thinking that a few days ago. I was thinking, hold on. It's possible. Very, very possible. I don't necessarily need to see the New Day come together and, do something fancy and, help Kofi to stay in and all that kind of, that's been done. If they do it again, they do it again. It's been done. Let us see something different. If Big E eliminating Kofi and Big E part of the final four, bro. That would be interesting.
To be fair, they said on Raw last night, because Xavier Woods had a match and he was ringside. No one was at ringside with him. They said that Kofi Kingston has broken his jaw in one of those matches with the Hurt Business. So he might not actually be fit to return in time for Royal Rumble.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. That's news. I'll be posting that later on today. Okay, interesting. But yeah, Keith Lee is probably the only other one. In terms of the men's, I still cannot pick a definitive winner for me. I can't predict a definitive winner, and that is great. I think that's amazing. I think that's great. So it's wide open. In terms of the women's one, I'm seeing Charlotte do it a second time. I'm seeing Charlotte do it a second time, if I'm completely honest, mate. What you've said about Bayley makes absolute and complete sense. It would still work. I think whatever happens, there's gonna be Bayley versus Sasha at WrestleMania, regardless. But now that Charlotte's kind of come back, and very recently, only 2 weeks ago, I think there's a strong possibility she will do it a second time and be the first woman to do it 2 years in a row. Because at the end of the day, they're throwing accolades on this woman like there's no tomorrow. So why not this one? Why not this one? So I think there's a strong possibility that Charlotte could win it. In terms of Bianca Belair being a favorite, I'm not completely sure where that's come from. Not to say that it's not possible for her, not to say that she doesn't have the ability, but I think if they go down that road, they will have to push the story of her getting to WrestleMania hard. Very, very hard. Very similar, I guess very similar to what Drew did last year in terms of just winning matches over and over again and all that kind of stuff, taking out the competition left, right, and center. Which is not impossible at all. I just don't see them doing it. Not for any fault of Bianca as herself, but I just don't. I think it's just too early. I still think it's just too early for main roster at least. I
think for Bianca, I don't think she'll be in a women's title picture. Maybe she gets a women's battle royal win at WrestleMania instead. And just about your Charlotte prediction, my second prediction, if not Bayley, is actually Rhea Ripley from NXT. So I think before then, Charlotte will beat Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship, and then those two will go off and have their rematch at Mania.
That would be strong. That would be very strong. And there's more than enough time for that to happen as well, actually, with Charlotte turning on Asuka. There's a pay-per-view in between Rumble and Mania, of course. And there's two. So yeah, it's very possible, actually. That would be a very interesting addition to their story, to what happened last year as well. I think Rhea Ripley was robbed in terms of that, the outcome of that match. I didn't really see the point in Charlotte actually winning it, and especially how her reign was as well. It was very pointless.
It was an experiment. They thought, should be a draw. They thought should be a draw in NXT because obviously we were bang in the COVID period right then. They weren't even in Thunderdome yet. They wanted to put ratings there, especially going up against AEW. They thought, let's put them out on Charlotte. It didn't really work out. Nah,
it didn't really work out, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so that would be great booking, to be honest, to see that happen. Of course, Rhea Ripley is expected to appear on the main roster, but I think it's on SmackDown though, and not on Raw. So
I think the Charlotte story is a ready-made story, which they should just run with. What come and do on Smack? Like, she's gonna fight some jabronis on SmackDown and just flander until someone like Sasha is ready to lose to her or something. It's
that's true. But then at the same time, Raw kind of feels like a waste bin as well, because you've got Shayna Baszler who could have done something by now. And there's others, like Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, who, yes, they're a tag team, but I think something more could have been done with them by now already as well. I don't know where I'd rather see Rhea Ripley right now, to be honest. I'm not completely sure. I'm just excited to see a little tentative, but because we know what this whole main roster thing feels like. But who knows? We'll see. What are the people saying in the comments?
So obviously a lot of chat about Kofi's broken jaw.
Right.
Arpit said Bianca Belair needs a little more polishing, so a match against Charlotte or Bayley first. Alex Harrison with what looks like a Hail Mary kind of guess. Lana wins the Women's Rumble, but you know what? This company love Lana, to be honest. Something like that wouldn't completely shock me, but I think she's had her moment being the sole survivor in Survivor Series.
Very true. I can see her coming back and being in the Final Four, though.
Yeah, that's completely possible.
That could definitely.
We ain't seen her for a minute.
And
Arpit, random thought, but what if Karrion Kross wins the Rumble?
I don't see it happening, but even just to see Karrion Kross in the Rumble would be amazing.
That's a proper fast track to the main roster.
That would be amazing. Actually, that's a good question. Do we see anyone from NXT kind of doing that?
I think Rhea Ripley for sure. The other rumored name is Damian Priest, that he's getting called up soon.
Right. But then they will then technically already be main roster by the time Royal Rumble comes around.
I personally don't think there's a point. I think they should just debut them in the Rumble. Make something of their appearance. You see what I mean? Don't just make them turn up on SmackDown and have a segment with Baron Corbin. Let's just get straight to the point.
That's gonna happen within the first month of them appearing on the main roster with Damian Priest. It's definitely happening. So, man, it's crazy. So moving to SmackDown as well, actually, because we're expecting Damian Priest to show up on SmackDown. He was actually supposed to turn up last week, if not 2 weeks ago. Kevin Owens, and the whole Roman Reigns story as well. So that could happen very, very soon. Moving on, so in SmackDown as well, we have seen 312 days of tag team championship reign end. The Street Profits are no longer the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. An absolutely amazing run in terms of numbers as the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Never lost the Raw Tag Team Championships, of course, were traded to SmackDown and just inherited the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Of course, they did defeat Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, but they have come back and taken that prize away from our boys. What do you see happening with the Street Profits from here on in? Do we see or how would it be? How would it be as now a more established tag team with them chasing the tag team championships compared to when they were up and coming chasing the tag team championships? Is that a very different thing?
It is, in a sense. It just depends really how much stock WWE have in the Dirty Dogs, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Like,
Right.
Yes, eventually they had to lose, but this tag team division is just so trash. It's just like, okay, they're gonna lose now. I think the one thing that works in their favor is that they have shown they can just do more than wrestle good matches. They're entertainers as well. They do backstage segments and stuff. And not to say I want to see them, kind of running down what's happening on SmackDown tonight and who's wrestling who. I don't really want to see those segments, but there's always going to be a place for them. But just because the tag division is just so poor right now, it's like even if they kind of got back into the hunt, even if they won it back, who's another tag team on SmackDown other than Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode right now? Nakamura looks like he's breaking free of Cesaro.
Yep.
Who's
actually left?
Otis, Chad Gable, loosely. Loosely, I don't even know who's tag team over there. Like, so, yeah.
The Lucha House, Lucha House Party on Raw, right?
Yeah, I think they're on Raw.
They ended up on NXT as well last week.
Yeah. But
they may end up in the Dusty Rhodes thing as well, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
They are. Yeah, it is a very, very weird place for the Street Profits to be right now. Usually with any put together tag team with Dolph Ziggler, it doesn't last long. It's kind of like a placeholder for someone else. Do we see, the Street Profits win it back just so they can claim to be two-time champions? Who knows? Yeah, so it's a very weird place. But as you said, that tag team division is so up in the air. It's like, what do they have to do with with that division in general? It's weird. I mean, you've got the possibility of what are their names again now? The two guys that are with Baron Corbin.
Okay, Knights of something.
Knights of the Round Table. I don't know. King Arthur, Lancelot, and King Arthur. I don't know. Prancelot, maybe. I don't know. But you've got those two. Yeah, it's a very difficult place for them to be. Do we see the whole split of the Street Profits anytime soon? Is that a possibility? Are we being a little bit
not anytime soon anyway?
I hope not. Not for now. It definitely doesn't need to happen for now. As much as I would push for a Montez Ford singles run and championships and blah blah blah. Yeah, I want to see that eventually, but it's way too early for that. Let us have the Street Profits do their thing for a little longer. And I do want to see how, with that tag team division, I have no idea, but see them chasing the championship as an established tag team and see what that dynamic brings to their whole repertoire and their future.
Reminds me, where on the PWI tag team list, where did Street Profits finish? Third? Do you remember?
Fifth. I believe it was fifth on the tag team list, right?
Yeah,
I believe it was fifth. Yeah. Which is
just thinking
very, very strong.
It's strong because they had a very good year, but without the tag team championships in this tag team division, they don't stand a chance of even coming top 5 next year. Surely,
that is true. That is very true, actually, because if not holding those championships for as long as they did, let's be very, very real. They were the only tag team in 2020 because obviously the New Day won it right at kind of only like September, October, just before obviously on the same night of the draft. So they weren't about. Both Kofi and Xavier were injured and stuff like that. So, I mean, they no, tell a lie. They did hold it. It was Kofi and Biggie, not long after Mania, of course, when Raw was still in the Performance Center. But yeah, the Street Profits were literally only tag team in WWE that were tag team throughout the whole year. Yeah, it's very difficult, man. We talk about the demise or the non-existence, I guess, of the AEW women's division, but the tag team division, both Raw and SmackDown, it's like, what is it?
They don't even care about it. There is more put together tag teams forwarding feuds rather than the actual tag teams going up against each other.
Oh, it's a problem. It's a problem. It's a big problem, to be honest. And I don't know what the solution is.
They don't care.
That I don't know.
When they're ready, they'll turn it back on. But now, they don't care. Not even in NXT, they just don't even care.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Even with the Dusty Rhodes Classic coming up, men's and the women's one as well. There's going to be a women's one as well for the first time. Yeah, it's just a weird thing. It's just a very weird thing. You've got WWE who kind of just throw people together, where with AEW you've got 20 million tag teams and not really doing anything with any of them. I don't know what tag team wrestling is right now, if I'm honest, mate. I don't know. But moving swiftly on away from the mess that is tag team wrestling, we will pick our stars of the week. I think it's time for us to talk about some good stuff.
Yeah.
So in the last we've got 2 weeks to think about, really, because the last time we were here was before Christmas. So for yourself, who do you think has gone from 2020 into 2021 on a high?
I'm going to go with Keith Lee. Obviously, there was a lot said, especially towards the back end of the year when we heard about the going back to the Performance Center and all of that kind of stuff. Since then, he's won a number one contenders match right at the end of the year. He's given us a great match on Raw. Probably one of the better Raw matches we will probably see this year. I can bank on that now. And then obviously he was very active last night. Had a tag team match with Sheamus. Had a one-on-one match with Sheamus. Both very good matches. And like we said earlier on, this is someone that he's gonna ascend to the top of that hill one day. And they've clearly seen something in him, despite all the rumors of he's learning how to wrestle in the Performance Center and this, that, and the other, right. Dressing him badly and getting his music wrong when he first appeared. This is someone I think they're invested in and keeping him warm. Let's hope the likes of Drew are able to recover in 2 weeks or so, gets out of quarantine and he gets back on track. If not, we have a capable body here that might just have to slip into a pretty high profile position for us. If needed. He's been backed on Raw, like live in the flesh by Triple H last night. So yeah, I think Keith Lee started off the year very hot, and long may it continue.
For sure. And I think I kind of joked about it earlier, but I think there's quite a big stock in having those legends watching his match.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the likes of Mark Henry, of course, already knows very much about who Keith Lee is and will be pushing for Keith Lee in the back and all the rest of it. But I think there are maybe a few others that were there that night who, whether they've actually seen him wrestle or not, or know much about him, would definitely go away impressed. And if in any way have any influence on, what happens in WWE or, have a word in Vince's ear, all that kind of stuff, I think there's a strong possibility of that. And just the fact that they had the legends out there for him as well is a massive, it's a massive positive for him, of course. And yes, it kind of played to the whole, Goldberg coming out for Drew. I still think just the simple fact that it was Keith Lee that they chose, it could have been Sheamus.
Yeah.
Could have been, possibly Jeff Hardy, maybe even Bobby Lashley, possibly, but it was Keith Lee. So again, all this talk of sending him to Performance Center and all the rest of it, it's not a worry. It's definitely a good thing, and they've got him. They've got their eyes very closely on him and what he does next. So shout out to Keith Lee. I think 2021 will be a big year for him.
Yeah.
Whether that accumulates to a world championship match, I'm not too sure about that. But I think he'll be in the picture. Possibly, grab the US title at some point, or whatever mid card title there is on whatever show he ends up on, throughout the year. So yeah, Keith Lee is going to be a big one.
Like you're saying as well, just one last thing. With the legends being out there, I'm sure there was a couple old school guys on that stage looking at Keith Lee, Drew McIntyre go in the ring and thinking, that's not how a big man is supposed to wrestle. And it's just kind of breaking up the stereotypes of there is no set way this thing can be done.
Right.
Like,
right.
as long as we get from A to B and, it's clean and no one gets hurt, that's the main thing. And I think, like you're saying, I think he would have won over quite a few people. A couple of times when they panned back to the legends during that match, I saw the likes of Mark Henry, Booker T looking on very proud.
Right.
Very proud. Like, kind of like no one was nudging the guy next to him. Like, that's my guy. Very proud. So he's doing well for himself.
Uncle Mark and Uncle Booker were definitely very proud of cousin Keith. So yeah, man, definitely shout out for them, for Keith and the legends that were out there as well, to be honest. So my pick, you know what? I like to think this one's strong, but also one that not a lot of people would have thought about. My pick is Moose.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but Moose has so many haters. Moose has so many haters. Within our own circles, bro. Within our own circles, Moose has so many haters. And but for me, the last few weeks, especially going from December to into the new year, Moose has been on fire, bro. I'm sorry. Yeah. Promos, his matches, destroying Willie Mack every single week. I'm sorry, Willie. It happens. What I mean? You kind of got to just get used to it. But I don't know if you saw their I Quit match at Genesis.
Yeah, I watched it.
My word,
it was mad. It was mad still. Yeah.
And then the ending. Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, that was strong booking, bro. That was strong storytelling, strong booking. Moose has come, like I said before, Moose has come out and devastated Willie Mack to the point where Willie Mack was lifeless, all that kind of stuff. Referees stopped the matches, all the rest of it. The I Quit match came out because Willie Mack was just annoyed at the fact that it was never him that quit. So the I Quit match was great. Mack got some level of revenge as well. He had a good strong showing in the match as well. But that ending was crazy. Again, Moose got the better of Mack, was ready to hit that concerto that would have taken Mack out for God knows how many weeks. And then Rich Swann comes out and begs Moose to stop by offering him a match for the Impact Championship.
Very smart.
Very, very smart. And then Moose said, "I quit." That was the spinner, bro. That was the spinner. So we're gonna get Moose versus Rich Swann. I knew it was gonna happen eventually, but for it to happen this way, even with Kenny Omega still looming over Rich Swann as well. I said when we first saw this whole AEW Impact thing, I said Moose is gonna be in there. And it's happening. It's happening. How they make it happen, whether he actually gets in with the whole Kenny thing, I don't know. But Moose he's just been that guy, bro, for the last couple of weeks. He's been there. So for me, Moose is definitely my star of this week. And I feel it's going to be a strong year for Moose. It's definitely going to be. He'll definitely hold that Impact Championship this year at some point. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I was watching that match and I was gobsmacked for a lot of it because it was just like big blow after big blow after, just spot after spot. And even with the finish, I thought, you know what are the chances that Moose actually messes with these guys in their hard to kill match? Maybe costs Rich Swann. That is the way ultimately, like you're saying, to involve himself in this whole kind of crossover storyline.
Of course.
It's
really
interesting.
I can see. I don't want this for Rich Swann, but I can see Moose beating Swan, and it's him that faces Kenny whenever they have this AEW champion versus Impact champion. And I think that would be a strong match, bro.
I think I want the other way. I want Rich Swann to face Kenny and lose, and Moose takes it off Kenny Omega. Because I think that's more of what Moose needs to propel him to where he kind of should be in Impact.
But I guess a part of me wishes it's Moose, and then Kenny doesn't beat Moose. So as much as we're expecting it to be Kenny holds 20 belts, and that's the prediction and whatever else, it would be very interesting if Moose wins and then Kenny can't beat Moose. He doesn't necessarily win the AEW championship, because I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah.
But it's for the Impact championship, and Moose wins. That would be enough to propel Moose.
Yeah, that's true.
Strong, bro.
A real stop to this belt collector stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And with the way that they've kind of, trying to build this vicious guy since that match with ECW, ECW. Wow, that's how hardcore Moose is getting from ECW in my head. But with EC3, he's just been a vicious guy, as we said, taking out Willie Mack and knocking him lifeless every single time. It would be interesting. Don Callis has got this whole thing of just doing something that we're just not expecting. So I'm getting too excited about it. I don't want to get too excited about it, because if it doesn't happen, I'll be upset. But no, that would be strong. So shout out to Moose for that as well. We've got a few more minutes and stuff. And I saw someone mention in our comments about Sports Illustrated. So Sasha Banks, the great and amazing, perfect and wonderful Sasha Banks, was top of the Sports Illustrated Wrestler of 2020 list. Sports Illustrated, not necessarily, known for their expertise on pro wrestling, but at the same time, the 10 that they chose was a decent 10. Yeah, we can argue about positioning and all the rest of it, but Sasha Banks was the top, the only African American in the list as well. Only one of two females in the list. Io Shirai was the other female. I believe she was. I think it's only Io Shirai that was the other female. How do you see that list, bro?
It's just another, bow in the cap, as they say. I mean, if you want to argue that she's not number one, she's definitely top 5.
Oh, for sure.
So,
top 3.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to get into the realms of saying positions, your loyalties to what you watch and what you prefer will obviously get involved. But
for sure,
you cannot argue Sasha Banks doesn't deserve to be there for the 2020 that she had. So I just think she's just so good. She's just so good. And you know what I watched recently? The Bayley Stone Cold Steve Austin Broken Skull session.
Right.
Bayley cannot get Sasha Banks' mouth, her name out of her mouth. And that is just a testament. Everything, I feel low on confidence, I go to Sasha Banks. If I don't know how I'm going to perform in a match, I go to Sasha Banks. Like, she makes it look like I cannot operate as a human being on this world without Sasha Banks.
It is very true.
And Steve Austin is completely in awe of Bayley and Sasha Banks and what they've done, their Brooklyn match, their Hell in a Cell match this past year. You can just tell this is someone that sees two phenomenal competitors, and but like I say, Bayley's there having a conversation with Steve Austin, putting over Sasha Banks the entire 1 hour and 20 minutes. Like it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and they've both been brilliant this past year. But Sasha taking number one, maybe for stuff she's done in the mainstream as well with the Mandalorian. Yeah, she's had a fantastic year, man.
Shout out to Christian Camacho, who has corrected me. Yes, Bayley was also in that list. So it was 3. I think it was 3 women in the list. Bayley was definitely one of them, and it would be very silly if she wasn't. To be fair, let's be very real about that as well. So yeah, as you said, I mean, come on, those two. Everyone wants to argue about that John Moxley's run was better. Drew McIntyre's run was better. But for me, the simple fact that these two women have managed to do what they did as women, where, you know, especially as well in a time where, you know, we had this whole women's evolution thing and we all got excited about that and they were pushing it for a while. And we know, and it's quite obvious that Vince has more or less given up on that whole, you know, evolution thing and, you know, pushing the women to the levels that WWE were pushing the women, say, about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So for them to still be as important to WWE as they have been, or you know, in the last year or so, for me, is the thing that pushes them above almost any male in, you know, throughout 2020. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal what they've done. And, you know, long may it continue. I'm glad that they're getting the recognition that they're getting in the way that they're getting. You know, I'm talking about both Bayley and Sasha Banks. Bayley has been great. And for me, Bayley has been great mainly because I just was not here for the whole Bayley heel turn. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't here for it, bro. Nah. But I absolutely love it when someone proves me wrong. Yeah. Absolutely love it with a passion. It's why I have you know, massive respect for Shayna Baszler as well. Someone I wasn't really, I was like, but you know, she's come through and done what she's done. So
for me, you know, there's I mean, just talking about the women's evolution quickly before we wrap up, there's only if we're ever to say women are going to main event a WrestleMania ever again, I say maybe in the next 5 years, there's only ever 3 matches that could happen. Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey, the match we should have got without Charlotte Flair's intrusion. Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. Or Sasha Banks versus Bayley.
Very true.
Those are the only 3 matches that could ever happen again as a main event for WrestleMania, in my opinion.
Strong. Very, very true. And I think the Bayley Sasha Banks thing, as you've said so many times already over the last, you know, few months, the iron's hot. Let them go for it right now. It can still happen later on in you know, in the years and stuff, but with them being so hot right now, it just makes absolute sense for them to do that right now. Ronda, who knows? Becky and Charlotte, definitely with, you know, the stature that they have within the women's division and stuff. Yeah, just throwing them two in anything is main event anyway. So yeah, man, that's strong. We'll see what happens. WrestleMania is not too far away. Royal Rumble is our next. For me, my favorite pay-per-view of the year is Royal Rumble for sure. Not because it always delivers, but just because, you know, it just gets the excitement going. You know what I mean?
We're gonna miss the crowd this year, man.
Man.
I hope they can do something that just brings it to life, even if it's some like pre-recorded madness. I don't know, like, but it's gonna need something.
If any pay-per-view needs a crowd, it is that one for sure. So yeah, it's gonna be so weird not having a crowd. The pops are gonna be fake. So that's gonna be very annoying. There's gonna be no boos, no real boos at least. For anyone, so we'll see what happens. But
let me leave you with this final thought before you wrap us up and take us home. Royal Rumble, we know, like you just said, it's going to be fake. Imagine the likes, not quite this person, but the likes of Baron Corbin winning the Royal Rumble, and then Kevin Dunn presses the cheer button, because that's what it's going to be.
Oh man! Ooh.
Yay! Baron Corbin's won! Yay!
Nah. So on that sad note, oh man, on the sad note, the show is over, which is another sad note. Come on, this is the new year. already in national lockdown. Don't make it worse for me, please.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Slap on the wrist. But folks, no, thank you very much for joining us. Those of you that have joined us on YouTube Live, those that will watch on the UK, on the WrestleManiac UK why is your name so long? The WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. And also those of you that will be listening on AffinityExtra.com. Folks, you can follow us on Instagram, Black Wrestling Alliance. My name's too long as well. And WrestleMania.uk and also WrestleManiac UK on Twitter, the dark place. I won't be visiting it that often this year, trust me. But folks, also don't forget to check me out on Instagram, because I'll have a whole lot of new stuff coming your way, including the Jet Power 10, which will be out later this week. Make sure you check that out. Jet Power 10, the top 10 wrestlers, black wrestlers of December. And you can let me know whether you agree with us or not. If you don't, I don't care, because they're already out. I'm joking. But folks, thank you for joining us. The chicken's waiting as always. So folks, we'll see